It is necessary for the recording of sound to convert the sound waves to corresponding changes in light. The sound waves produced by my voice are transmitted through the air to the microphone, where these sound waves are converted to changes in an electric current. These variations in the electric current are then amplified and used to control the light. This varying beam of light falling on the photoelectric cell produces variations in the electric current, which are directly proportional to the variations in the light beam. The sound track. As the varying electrical current in the photoelectric cell is small, a vacuum tube amplifier is required to increase it to the point where it will operate a loudspeaker. Soundtrack.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. We will be continuing on with the topic that we had covered last week when it dropped. I don't even know how to say this correctly. Nuwaubian cult. What was the other name of it, JJ? I know that you called it something else, at a Tama-Re or something like that.
Oh, that was the name of their capital city they built in Edenton, Georgia. Yeah.
Okay, so
Tama-Re.
Yeah,
Chief Black Eagle, aka Dwight York, aka Malachi Z, aka some alien name that he created.
I think even some of the notes I have, there'll be different names that I even bring up that this guy used. But yeah,
right.
We're back to that. We're back to that one, that topic again. And I know last week we probably covered a lot. I think we bounced around on a whole bunch of different things. This episode, we were going to get like a little bit more specific with it. In the beginning, I was going to cover a little bit more about like the specifics and stuff that I have come across that, you know, proposes there was occult influences. Then JJ was going to go into some of his like political stuff in the IRS that we didn't cover last week. And then I really, and I'm doing it kind of on purpose to make sure everybody listens to the whole episode, but you know, Teresa, Eagle Eye, as she calls herself sometimes, caught something that actually, I mean, I myself probably would have missed unless it was up. If it was up on the TV and I heard what was said, it would have caught my attention, but I would have had to be paying attention in a sense. But a really good find that ended up kind of spurring off a rabbit hole of Dave Chappelle, then down into a rabbit hole of tons of hip hop artists from the 90s. That is promoting and associated with this as well. So there will be ties to Dave Chappelle, Jay-Z, Mobb Deep, a guy from De La Soul, a few people. And
there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. So I'm saving that for last. So I suggest, if you can, to try to wait around until the ending. But so that's the kind of what I got planned for this episode. Before we get into it, real quick, Teresa, would you like to promote that amazing podcast you do?
Well, sure. Thanks so much. Yes. So my show is the Spiritual Gangsters podcast. Also usually co-hosted with you. Right now we're big on like analyzing the weekly news stories that we should be paying attention to, breaking them down, connecting dots. And it's a great time. I enjoy it very much. And yeah, I also made a hat that you suggested at the end of the last episode.
Get the
that was
fuck
on Tuesday.
out.
You were like, why don't you make one that says "Get the fuck out"? And I was like, "Yo, I will." So here we go.
Nice.
GTFO.
Love
there you
it.
go. So yeah, you can get it if you want. Hit me up.
Save it for the next pandemic. Put it on so nobody comes talking to you.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Next time there's mandates enforced, be like, read my hat.
Yeah, put
bitch.
that on and walk around without a mask. They won't say anything anyway. Like, that motherfucker's already pissed.
It was so funny. My kids were like, "What's GTFO?" And I was like, "Ooh."
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's funny. I had to explain
Because they
that.
saw it on my kitchen table, and I was like, "Oh, I guess I have to tell you what it means." It's okay. They were funny
That's
about
funny.
Nice.
But yeah, thank you very much for jumping on, Teresa. I appreciated you there on the first part. And then JJ, let everybody know about the wonderful show that you have as well.
Howdy, JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD podcast. It's a shenanigan-infused journey into the mind of this particular garbage can dude. Like to discuss various topics of occult and taboo nature of in our modern era of censorship, things that are considered of a taboo nature, specifically things such as ancient alien cargo cults, such as the one we're talking about here today. One of the stranger ancient alien cargo cults, I would have to say, that has been in existence here in America in the past or in the present. I mean, these folks really are up there as far as out, completely out there as far as the universe is concerned, because they actually think they're biologically descendant of aliens, and also have a belief system in which this apocalyptic nature, this apocalyptic philosophy that they preach, helps them basically ascend into another galaxy through some sort of rapture. Mm-hmm. So don't want to get into the ins and outs of it, but it is very unique, and it is very bizarre. But they're not alone in ancient alien cargo cults. They're one of many, but possibly one of the at least one of the funniest ones to talk about relative to their activities and the impact they've had culturally speaking, which seemed like I initially thought was fairly significant cultural impact with Dr. Malachi Z, Chief Black Eagle, Dwight York. But seemingly, the more I look into it, it's aggressive how the impact it has culturally speaking, within the hip hop community.
Yes, it's huge.
And from its onset, from day one of the hip hop community, and even into its modern era, even though old Dr. York is sitting behind bars for a few hundred years for diddling kids, he still seems to have an impact within culture and specifically within one certain block of Brooklyn. Is that correct, Nick?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think I had mentioned it on the first part where I think when we first started looking into this, I just had assumed that none of these places were opened anymore. And I was like, well, there's a website. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, there's that place in Brooklyn is still open, which I eventually went to myself. And I do think I have some footage to show eventually. But yeah, I mean, it's open. And me and JJ, I mean, if anybody was to even go on the site, you will have Malachi Z's picture shows up on that site at some point. It may not be there right away when you go on it, but the pictures change and you will see his face, and they're still promoting his stuff. So I found that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I thought, honestly, when my initial analysis of this cult, when I first discovered it and looked into some of their business, I was focused mainly on the Georgia operations where they moved their headquarters to, because that's where the FBI raided, so that was kind of the angle I was interested in, because I initially discovered these folks in my mound research. I was like, looking at ancient alien mound cults, again, this being one of them, not the only one, but, they were obviously well-funded. Most of them are not well-funded. This one was very well-financed through various seemingly criminal efforts, according to the FBI records and investigations, but nonetheless, a well-financed ancient alien cargo cult who operated on a mound in Georgia and was involved in just a tremendous amount of, completely criminal activities, just the full spectrum, basically. So they're an interesting group to analyze, because again, there are still believers in their philosophies and their theology today, and it's permeated again throughout seemingly the hip hop culture the most.
Oh yeah, I mean,
all of it seems very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
The fact that it still exists, most cults at least tend to, they may still operate after a cult leader goes to prison, but they don't tend to continue to wield any kind of power or grow any strength. And I would actually argue that this one's slightly different in that regard, where their cult leader went to prison. The feds tore down the entire city that they built, huge compound in Georgia. Somehow they still kept the Brooklyn operation, which I was kind of shocked to learn. And they actually have a vast number of other operations in other cities, but they have like a kind of a Scientology corporate structure of sorts, I guess, interlocking different corporate entities that own these different facilities, libraries, if you will, research centers, that sort of thing within this Nuwaubian religion, if you will, if you want to call it that. I mean, they certainly do. But it's weird that the city in Georgia is torn down, but they keep the rest of their resources. I mean, all of them, according to the feds, the entire block in Brooklyn that you visited, Nick, was actually funded through welfare checks of cult members, right?
Wow.
That's according to the feds. And so it's kind of mind-boggling to me that they take down the cult, the leaders, both the leader and one of the quote-unquote Nuwaubian millionaires, according to the PR rep in an interview back in the late 90s in Georgia when they were building up the Tama-Re city. You know, the local media had questioned who's financing this, and the PR rep for the cult said, you know, the Nuwaubian millionaires, you know, talking about cult members who were very wealthy. One of those was obviously Wesley Snipes, and he went to prison as well. So they chop off, you know, the financing and the cult leader. They both go to prison in around the same time. You know, Snipes fought it for a couple of years, but his takedown was at the same time as York's for the tax evasion in 2004 that York went for the kid diddling. But nice. I mean, there's a lot of crossover there. That's a good comment. There's a lot of crossover with Scientology with all this stuff. I mean,
Yeah, I think so too.
no question about it. You know, their philosophies and their operations. But yeah, so it's, you know, it's odd. So they eliminate the whole head of this organization. They completely destroy the entire city in Georgia. They built the pyramids, the Sphinx, everything. But they get to keep the rest of their resources and their buildings. It's kind of strange. So, and again, it seems to be a resurgence, if you will, with some of these philosophies and activities with this cult that permeate through the hip hop community. Because, you know, looking back, you know, historically speaking, you know, there's members of hip hop, prominent members of hip hop who've always been part of this cult or associated with this cult. It just seems like there's more of them today than there have been in the past. So I don't know.
You know, there's, you know, just thinking about it now, and maybe it'll make more sense when near the end when I start pulling up some of the stuff with the properties. But I'm wondering if, like, maybe just due to legalities and who the property was under in Brooklyn may have been why they couldn't take it, because it was under a York, but I don't think him. I don't remember exactly, but we'll get to it at some point. Because, I mean, you always hear about, like, I mean, from even with my experience, when I had gotten arrested and I ended up getting out on bail, it's really not bail, it's just the feds will let you out and assume you're going to show up to court. And, like, if you go get a paid lawyer, they're going to assume, like, the guy didn't blow 30 grand on a lawyer not to fucking show up. So, like, you know, you go and get a lawyer and they kind of, like, let you out if it's not, like, a you know, a horrible crime or whatever, or, you know, they have to worry about you hurting someone. But, so, like, I was out, but, like, my lawyer had even hit me up, and he was like, you know, they followed you deliver, like, something to the post office with your car. And they, even though I don't even think it was steroids, they're like, they could try to say that you transported drugs with that car, and they could take it. And he was like, you may want to sign that over to someone else.
Sure. No,
and he suggested him, which I thought was fucking hilarious. And I was like, no, thank you very much. And I took my car and I traded it in and got a different car and money back because the car was paid for full. I paid the thing fucking cash like an idiot when I first got it. I bought a Subaru WRX STI. It had less than 500 miles on it, and then I had to trade it back in because I was afraid the feds were going to take it. And I took another car back. But, like, the whole thing, what I'm getting at is that because even if I would have switched it over to somebody else's name, it might have been harder to take it, but they still could have said, like, blah, blah, blah. But, like, that might have been a reason maybe why the Brooklyn spot is still open, because it was maybe not technically under Dwight York to take.
No, you're exactly correct. That is what they have set up. They have these, there's probably some individuals that own some of those properties in the Brooklyn site, but it is interlocking kind of hierarchy of corporate structures that they have interlinked with each other. And obviously, because you looked at the one guy we were looking at the other day through some of their agencies was all one, what was it, Abdul something? Do you know what I'm talking about, Nick? Nope, we lost him. Nick and I were looking at some of the registered agents for some of these research libraries and stuff that they have. Like you mentioned the facility in Toronto the last time we spoke.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, so that's all for their. If you go on their website, that's listed there, and they have addresses listed for all these other locations.
That's so crazy.
Off the main Brooklyn site website.
Right, like little satellite locations. Or
yeah, and there's one dude who's like listed in most of these cities as like it's listed under like one dude's name, and he's got some sort of, you know, African Muslim name. I don't recall the exact name, but yeah. So I mean, they seem to, that's kind of how Scientology operates. They have these different structures within, like a Scientology org in one city is only owned by like one hierarchical entity within Scientology, but then that entity is connected to another entity, who's connected to another, but there's no direct lineage between any of them, kind of deal. You know what I mean? Because the board members interlock and whatnot. And David Miscavige, the chairman of the board, he's kind of the man on all, you know, in charge of all these these boards. This Nuwaubian folks, they seem to operate in the same capacity, and it is a liability situation where they don't want to lose those properties and stuff. So for sure, that's a good point, Nick. And you know, I just think that this just one more point on the properties and the political nature of their activities and their corporate kind of magic tricks they like to play with their properties and locations. They're doing the same stuff with their financial records that appears with the IRS. I was briefly look at their IRS records and see some of their filings. For example, the state of New York has some very stringent requirements for nonprofits to make sure they file all their IRS documents within the state, and they didn't have that within the state of New York. So then I started looking, and they're obviously located in New York, so that was obviously a red flag at first for me. So I started looking at the IRS, and I found an EIN that was associated with the Nuwaubian folks there out of Brooklyn, and that EIN, according to the IRS, does not exist. The one they have listed on some stuff. So it seems they're playing the Clinton Foundation game, where they do register in some states. They don't have a real nonprofit, because the IRS never gave them a nonprofit, it seems, which is what the Clintons were doing for the longest time, because the Clintons were authorized to run a library in Arkansas, and they decided to make that some sort of global charity project, right? But so they didn't have the IRS documents, so the states like New York, they can never be registered in the state of New York to do anything, because they didn't have the proper documents to file. For example, West Virginia and I think Mississippi kicked the Clinton Foundation out of their states from doing business because they didn't have any IRS documents.
Oh, wow.
And these Nuwaubian folks seem to be operating on that same sort of playbook, if you will, the charity fraudster kind of playbook, the nonprofit fraudster kind of playbook.
You know,
it reminds me of when we covered the Mormons, Nick. A lot of the same sort of like loopholes and, you know. Yeah. It's like they all sort of follow the same like basic ways of operating, I suppose.
For sure.
Yeah.
There was
another ancient alien mound cargo, or another ancient alien cargo cult.
Funny enough, right?
There was a cult, the Fellowship of Friends, that me and L.O.X had covered a while ago on the Occult Rejects, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I played the clip or if I just, I'm sure I mentioned it though. There was even a guy that the people had done interviews with a few of the people that were there, and I had found some audio clips from like other shows and stuff. And there was a guy who admits that the Fellowship of Friends were just claiming some religious exemption, but didn't actually really have it, I think. And like the IRS found out and was like, well, what the fuck is, what's up with this? Where's your shit? And they said that they literally, a few of them went into a room and right then and there just came up with their basic tenets, just whatever sounded good, threw it on paper and said, here you go. And it went through.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty arbitrary.
Oh, that was easy.
And that's their church or whatever.
Yeah. Somebody could take like Libre Oz and reword it and go get a fucking religious exemption from fucking
if you
the
pay
IRS.
the IRS enough, you probably could. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Jeez.
Well, that's what Scientology famously lost their IRS exemption in the late 60s, early 60s, maybe early 60s. And sometime in the 60s, I feel like. L. Ron was clearly siphoning off significant amount of money into his own pocket, and the IRS was like, "You can't be a nonprofit and be doing that and enriching yourself as the church leader." So yanked the IRS status, and then the Scientologists literally did a gang stalking campaign against the IRS in order to gain their nonprofit status back in the 90s, because if they didn't, they were going to go bankrupt and be out of business.
Jeez.
So this nonprofit status is important. So it is interesting when these Nuwaubian folks seemingly are claiming to be a nonprofit, but I don't see any record of it in the IRS documents. And the EIN number they list with some of the state, like for example, they register with the state of Pennsylvania and they list an EIN number there that doesn't come back in the IRS records for anything. So
Wow.
that's all I can say. I'm gonna look at it some more, but this is what my initial analysis was the other day when Nick and I were talking about this. I was like, this is strange. This doesn't make any sense because, as you pointed out, Nick, that it's not that difficult. The IRS is pretty arbitrary what they hand out for religious exemptions. I mean, and it's not that difficult to put together the actual information they're required in which to grant it. So it's kind of odd that they would operate in this for so long in this kind of status.
You would
and then actually still register with some states listing an EIN number, which is like the identifier provided. It's like a social security number, but for a business. So the IRS issues a business EIN number.
Yes.
Or the corporate entity, if you will, for nonprofit.
Yeah, the court
So
rejects
it's kind of
technically
odd
has
they
an
list
EIN
this and
number.
they don't actually have one. So I don't know. It just seems like an odd environment. Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, like how do I have one and they don't?
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Super weird.
That's so funny. I know we're already like 20 minutes in, but I'm gonna go into some of my notes, and it probably will like bring up maybe some people are like not even really sure who the hell we're talking about right now. I did get that from maybe some people in the chat and somebody on Facebook.
It's Chief Black Eagle,
Yeah.
aka Dwight York, aka Malachi Z,
Yes, and I think I'm gonna get into a few other names that he called himself.
aka Dr. York. I don't know what his doctorate is. I don't have the credentials, but I feel like
Yo.
He's just Dr. York, doctor of alien shit.
Yo, when this dude ran up on me, and I guess I'll get into it more maybe later. When this dude ran up on me at the place, because I ended up going down to this place and I did film it, and I did send my drone up and ended up crashing it, but I did send my drone up to film it. And this kid ran out and ran up to me like holding his phone like up to like basically up in his face. Holding it up to his face. So it's like I really couldn't see his face, but I saw someone holding their phone up and I was like, this is weird. And I'm like even looking at the dude and I'm like, maybe he's not coming towards me. Maybe he's just like another typical dude like on his phone FaceTiming his girl and like has to advertise it to everybody. So they're like one of those people that like yell and scream and have conversations everywhere. FaceTiming. Yeah, I just figured maybe he was one of those people. And then when he got off the sidewalk and started coming straight towards me by my car, I was like, oh fuck, this motherfucker's coming for me. And I'm like, wow, this is really happening right now. Right. And the guy's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing over here? What the fuck are you filming? And I was like, dude, what the fuck is up with you putting your fucking cell phone in my face? I'm like, who the fuck are you? What the fuck are you doing? And then like he starts like aiming the phone on like my drone controller. And he's like, well, what are you filming? I was like, I'm filming this fucking building. I said, what the fuck? And he's like, and then I think he said something like, I live here or I work. He said something. He associated himself with that place. And I was like, okay. And he's like, well, what are you recording it for? And I was just like, it has amazing architecture. Of course, I'm just going to tell him something,
sure, yeah.
Which is part of the reason I'm kind of telling him the truth. I'm not lying. It's just by omission.
No, I mean,
so I was like, I'm going to have to play word magic to get out of this. So, and then I continued, I rolled up my sleeves and showed him my tattoos. And I was like, dude, I'm an occultist. I said, you don't think this shit interests me? I was like, this architecture is amazing. Yeah, I had him sold at that point and diarrhea out of his fucking mouth. That's the only way I ever knew that Jay-Z, the first video that he was ever in, was filmed there. And then when I went and looked it up, I found out the kid was telling me the truth. Wu-Tang has been there. Mobb Deep has been there. I mean, this kid was just running off shit about, oh, are you into UFOs? Are you into the Anunnaki, conspiracies, spirituality, stuff like that? And he was like, it was to the point to where by the time he left, he actually said, you should come here on Sundays. The temple is open, and it's questions and answers. And he's like, and he even told me, the bookstore's open 7 days a week. He's like, you're welcome back. I was like, what?
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it was interesting for sure, but I'll get into it.
And that was a good discovery too, because we kind of briefly touched on that in part one with Jay-Z's mentor Jaz-O being a member of the cult. But until you mentioned that to me, Nick, I had no idea that was Jay-Z's first appearance in a music video was there at the Brooklyn HQ of the Nuwaubian Nation.
Yeah, I mean, he even told me, he's like, if you come back, I will tell you stories about Wu-Tang you wouldn't fucking believe. I was like,
That's awesome.
I know I wanted to go back.
Definitely gotta go check that out.
I honestly tell you the truth, with some of the accounts that I've noticed follow me after I made that post on Instagram, and I mean, it did pretty okay. I'm actually like, I don't think I'm going back there, to be totally honest with you. And there was some people actually that I realized I have some listeners and fans that must be into his shit, because they seemed a little upset and butthurt that I was making a post on him. I was like, yo, sorry, dude.
Yeah,
95% of the people I pointed at have been white. And now the one black motherfucker I point at, now I'm fucking wrong, and I should just move on, New York. This isn't the one to worry about. Go worry about the European people.
Right.
Why don't you just say, keep pointing at white people and not motherfucking black people? Just say that.
Buddy.
Just say that to me.
Cults don't discriminate. Everyone's got a cult somewhere, guys.
Yeah, it was only people of the same skin color that shit on me with that post. So that should tell you something.
Nice.
But all right, let me get
I think that speaks to the cultural influence of Chief Black Eagle here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what I was getting at with that whole long drawn out thing with the Scientologist, felt like I was dealing with one. He had even asked me, "Have you heard of Dr. York?" And when I was looking at him, I was like, "Just shut up, dude! Don't even just play dumb." And I was like, "No." I was like, so this dude even knows the Kitty Diddler exists. Found that interesting.
Oh yeah.
So he obviously
on the building still, right?
He
says on the building real big still, right? Dwight York.
I think
Dr.
so.
York on the side of the building.
But I mean, he obviously must drank enough of the Kool-Aid. But yeah.
Now that you mention it, I just remembered there's a disturbing number of petitions to get this man out of prison that exists online right now. Like, again, he's got a strong following that even are trying to claim that he should not be in prison for the next 150 years for kid diddling. So he's got he's had quite an influence on folks. It's kind of impressive. Well, this is disturbing and kind of dark influence, but I'm just saying generally, like objectively speaking, like it's kind of amazing how this man is grasped such an influence on such a wide scope of society. I mean, including some of the followers of the cult rejects have been hollering at Nick about even talking about it.
But you know what? I will preface this before I go forward too. I mean, I did notice. I might mention it in my notes. I don't remember or not later on. But there was one of the people that I knew that were into him at some point. I think might have kind of left. This might even be Jazzo. I could be wrong though. But there was somebody who did say that they thought, and I'm wondering if this is some of the beliefs of other people. But then when I'm done with it, I think you would realize that either way, there's something wrong with this group. Some people are saying that they are under the belief that they think York's son schemed this whole thing on him so he could take it over.
Oh, well, that'd
so
be
so now if you're using that as a justification to stay in it, you're still admitting your leader is fucked up. Like, what the fuck?
Isn't his son the producer of Mobb Deep and like Lil Kim? Isn't that his son? He's a music producer, I believe.
I don't know if he's their producer.
I know York was at one point. He was trying.
Yeah, I think he was early on, at least early on in their careers. He was associated with both of those musical acts.
Oh, wow.
But like, even the reason I wanted to bring it up is like, if you do find that defense, I'm sorry, I still think that makes it still seem the leader of the thing that you're into is willing to do that to his father for what? The monetary gain? Like, what the? You know what I'm saying? It's still really bizarre.
Yeah.
Like,
no, for sure.
Yeah.
So is this what the fellow at the cult told you? He said
no, it was
involved.
No, it was when I was going through all these people that all the list of people that I'll get to that were like into this stuff. Yeah. Some of them you find that they've done interviews or even talked about like being into this stuff, and I can't remember which one it was, but one of them did mention that they that the whole thing with the cult is the reason why they didn't think Dwight York was a bad person is because they were under the belief that the son basically fabricated this whole thing to be like lock him up, to put him in jail, to take it over. And I'm like, I mean, how do you even justify still being associated with somebody who did that? Like, right. Come on. It's like, that's either way, I'm sorry, it's a loss. I mean, just take the L, man. Keep going. Find something else. We've all been duped. Like, just move on. It's all right.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting you mentioned that because I was trying to look into his son to get a kind of a background on him, and there is surprisingly a lack of information about that man on the interwebs.
All right, so we'll get into it here. The Nuwaubian Nation is an American new religious movement found and led by Dwight York, also known as Malachi Z. York. York began founding several black Muslim groups in New York in 1967, supposedly around when he started. He changed his teachings and names of his groups many times, incorporating different ideas like Judaism, Christianity, UFOs, New Age stuff, esoteric beliefs. The group has taken numerous names throughout its history, including, and this is a name I think I'll go back to later on, Ansaru, if I'm saying it correctly, Allah Community. It's also been called Holy Tabernacle Ministries, United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, Yamsi, Native American Moors of the Creek Nation, and Nuwaubian Nation of Moors. I mean, he's called this thing plenty of different names and has changed its ideology so many times. It's like, you got to just see this as a scam. That's just my opinion.
For sure.
That's my
opinion. May I add a fun fact about the Creek Nation attempt there to reform it as a Native American nation? That was simply as an attempt to get a casino license, and that didn't work. So that failed. So they were, you kind of dropped it after that a little bit. Focused more on the pyramids and the mounds and the aliens more so than the Native American aspect.
I was going to say, I was like, Creek Nation. I'm like, what's the Creek Nation? I'm like, Cree? When I read that, I was like, wow, this is just some like make up some heritage. Like, oh yeah, I'm from the
it was
these people.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, he did basically make up some heritage. So down in that area of Georgia, that was kind of Cherokee and Creek Seminole Nation. So he basically was like, oh, well, I'm from these people now. My heritage is now from the Creek Nation. So I'm Creek. This whole area, this whole compound we're building is a Native American, nation. So he's like, I need a casino license. Start writing me some checks. It's basically, but yeah, I mean,
mad checks, please.
It seems like wherever he went, he just kind of adapted this. Because he changed his heritage numerous times. Like originally, he was descended from Lewis and Clark's slave that joined them on the expedition across America. I say slave because I don't know. I mean, it seemed like he was a soldier on their outfit, let alone not just a slave. You know what I mean? There was a military outfit of Lewis and Clark going across America. So they had a black fellow there with them named York. Just, I don't know that he had a first name or that was his last name. They just think historically speaking, he's only documented as York. And Dwight York claimed to be a paternal descendant of that man. That was his first storyline, and then he later claimed to be some sort of second coming of some Messiah and some Sufi Islamic faith.
Yeah, I mentioned.
And then later the Creek Nation situation, and then somewhere in between, he was a descendant of an alien. So the guy had a lot of stories. I mean,
he did.
But yeah, it seemed to be a matter of convenience when they moved to the area where the Creek Nation, natives, their historical, land was. He's like, yep, I'm from these people now. And that's the new story.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think he just changed everything to suit whatever he was trying to get done.
Yeah, like whatever was convenient, right?
Yeah.
It's a classic cult leader move. I mean,
yeah, no, for real, you're right.
Classic cult leader move.
It really is.
Right?
He began founding several black Muslim groups in the late 1960s. In 1967, he was preaching to the Ansaru Allah in Brooklyn, New York, during the period of the Black Power movement. These were at first based in kind of like pseudo-Islamic themes in Judaism. In the late 1960s, York started calling himself Imam Isa, combined elements of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Nation of Islam, and the Nation of Gods and Earth in Freemasonry. So he started like mixing all those ideas together and founded a quasi-Muslim black nationalist movement and community. He called it Ansar Pure Sufi, or the Ansaru Allah community. And then he started to instruct his members to wear black and green dashikis. Later, he then changed his name to Imam Isa Abdullah and renamed his Ansar Pure Sufi ministry to the Nubians in Brooklyn in 1967. The group was considered to be part of the Black Hebrews phenomenon under the name Nubian Islamic Hebrews and Nubian Hebrew Mission as of 1969. Later, he developed a theme derived from ancient Egypt, mixing ideas taken from Black nationalism, cryptozoology, Christianity, UFO religions, New Age, and popular conspiracy theories at the time.
I like the cryptozoology part. Like, I really want to know, like, what portions of their theology, like, was Bigfoot like some sort of ancient priest within their religion? It
was a saint.
You know what I mean? Like, what I want to know where they go with the cryptozoology part.
Oh yeah, and this guy. And he last called his group the United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, Nuwaubian Nation or Nuwaubians. And then, like, this is another thing. This guy, Dwight, he also authored or edited under, like, various pen names over 450 pamphlets. I think I might have, like, mentioned that in the first part. And, like, I mean, I guess over time that is quite possibly. I'm sure that's doable. But, like, I had even wondered, like, again, did you have, like, somebody else kind of, like, helping you? And did you just, like, sign off or just say, like, oh, yeah, these are mine? I mean, that's a lot of shit to pump out. So who knows? But
I know you did make that point in part one. I think you're spot on. I think that's straight out of some L. Ron Hubbard, playbook right there. I think that's a lot of what he did too. Having cult members produce, some of his writings and then stamping it, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yep. His stuff covers a wide range of esoteric topics pulled from almost like incompatible sources, including mystical Islam, scientific theories, and UFO lore. Supposedly Edgar Casey's writing. He was kind of big into U.S. Patriot conspiracy theories for what, guess what was going on back then. And
Sure.
Black Freemasonry. The group's headquarters was, and this is the place that I went to, was in Bushwick, Brooklyn, until 1983. A portion of the community moved to Sullivan County, New York, to a site they called Camp Jazir Abba. In 1972, he moved his growing congregation into various apartments he bought in the Bushwick section of Brooklyn and called his new commune the Ansaru Allah community. In the summer of 1973, he went to Sudan, where he sought out the descendants of the famous Sudanese Mahdi Muhammad Ahmad. Imitating the custom of pilgrims to Africa from the Nation of Islam, York had his photograph taken standing before the Mahdi's tomb at Khartoum University. He met members of Mahdi's family and had his photograph taken in their company. He claimed he was initiated into the Order of Al-Qadr and also into a Sufi order of Khalwatiyya. I'm probably screwing that up. York reports that this initiation took place at the junction of the White Nile and the Blue Nile in Egypt, where he experienced a mystical visitation. He basically claims the version of Archangel and whatever he was into, their version of Archangel Michael visited him. So that's the claims that he has. Upon his return to New York in 1973, York declared he was a direct descendant of the Sudanese Mahdi, if I'm even saying that correctly, since he was born in June, exactly 100 years after his great-grandfather, and that he had acquired a degree in Islamic law during his stay in Sudan. He then claimed to be the return of the Mahdi by adding the title Mahdi to his name. So then it was like Al-Imam Isa Abdul Mahab Al-Mahdi, whatever something like that. And he published a new book under some name like Muhammad Ahmed, the Only True Mahdi. He published that in 1976. York,
that's kind of the mystical belief the folks still today have of him, though, right? Like
I think
they think he's that character, right? Like that is a mainstay of their principles today. Like
I think
that's
like
who this dude is.
I think the way he was when he left Brooklyn and went to Georgia is still the person they're envisioning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the name he was running around with, right? This kind of Sufi mystical leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
and
I don't
then
know how to pronounce it either. You probably did better than I
yeah, that Mahdi. York's followers changed their attire to long white robes and turbans of Sudan. Then the AAC, which is the Ansaru Allah community, I just might say AAC a few other times, that's who it is, sent out missionaries to Baltimore, Cleveland, Atlanta, Newport, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. They established teaching centers in their chain of bookstores, and I found this interesting, and I will go into this a tiny bit, known as the Tents of Kedar, Kedar, and held classes in esoteric philosophy, blackosophy, and questions and answer meetings. Sounds kind of close to probably what I was asked to come to. You know what was funny? Not for nothing, I was even really tempted, but I was like, the way we met is already weird. But I was even tempted to even ask this dude. I was going to be like, am I even going to be allowed to walk into this place? Like, I'm probably going to be the only fucking white guy there. Like I had even wondered.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean,
point.
just to be totally, especially when you're running down on me in the streets. I mean, what am I supposed to expect now?
Well, I mean, just generally speaking, their philosophy doesn't really accept white people, right? I mean, that is kind of the underlying principles of a lot of the Nation of Islam stuff that's built. This was built off of.
I mean, you know what's funny? He had even said to me, and I even used this to my advantage. He was like, and then he was like trying to give me excuses about why he was like bugging out. Yo, the guy even had a walkie-talkie on him. He said he knew when I was there as soon as I started pulling out my camera.
Yeah, for sure.
But
everything you described to me is the to the T experience. If you were to try to go fly a drone over like the Scientology Hollywood Center in Los Angeles, the big blue building, like if you were to go out there and try to fly a drone, you're going to get the same experience. You're going to get some dude running out with a phone recording you just like this guy did. And he's, part of a team of cult members who run security operations for the facility. They get paid in like, they get fed like a Triscuit and like a bottle of water like every 36 hours, So you're dealing with some people that are kind of on their wits end, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guy, what I'm saying is the guy was probably on the edge a bit before he even encountered you.
Yeah, but he told me, he's like, and then he was like going on about like some of the reasons about why they're like kind of like bugging out about stuff, worried about like some dude out there. And he was like, a couple of weeks ago, somebody from like a few blocks away had like sent a drone and was like flying around our stuff. And I looked at him and I'm like, dude, I'm parked right in front of your building. I was like, I could have easily have parked half a mile away and sent this drone and still filmed your place. You would have never have known where the fuck I was if I wanted to do it that way. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's true. And I'm just like freestyling. But here is a video of like kind of the place, a little bit of what I got. I'll leave this up while I continue to read some of my notes so people can look at this too. But the Tents of Kedar, I found that interesting. I looked up Kedar. You can find some quotes kind of referring to this in the Bible. According to Genesis 25:13, it's dark-skinned, the second son of Ishmael. Then also it is the name for the nomadic tribes of Arabs, the Bedouins generally. That's from Isaiah 21:16, 42:11, 67, and Jeremiah 2:10, and Ezekiel 27:21. Then there is also who dwelt in the northwest of Arabia. They lived in black hair tents. To dwell in the tents of Kedar was to be cut off from the worship of the true God. The Qatarites suffered at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. I'm not going to quote where all these things come from, but supposedly these things are out of the Bible, Psalms and Jeremiah and other things. But to dwell in the tents of Kedar was to be cut off from the worship of the true God. So why are you even going there? That's just my opinion. Like, is that a way you want to be cut off? Is that a way of them telling you, if you actually are somewhat educated, you'll understand what you're getting involved in when you step into this place?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's like, kind of like we told you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely some interesting architecture. I question the historical accuracy of some of it. I'm not sure if they had barbecue grills, smoker grills in ancient Egypt. I see one of those out front, so I just want to point that out. They may not be historicry accurate. I do like a lot of the stuff going on here. It is interesting.
I mean, it's cool and everything.
Funny.
Jeez,
You're
like
funny, dude.
I would be most curious if I walked up on this building and be like, "Whoa, what is that? But
I don't think this is historically correct.
I've been looking for pictures from their ancient Egyptian nightclub they used to have down at the Georgia compound. I really want to see what that looked like because, they were running they didn't have a liquor license, but they were running a nightclub and selling booze out of this, and letting people in from the outside the compound into their nightclub. Obviously, they got to make that money. But I really want to see pictures of it because I feel like if they're doing this kind of architecture here, I want to see what they're going to do for their nightclub. Because it is a pretty unique place. I mean, it is interesting to look at for sure. I'd love to see the inside of it. I mean, it seems like they're very welcoming as far as visitors. I probably wouldn't stay long though.
Yeah.
I think it's open to the public like once a week. You said, right, Nick?
Yeah. On some days you can
go. We're checking out.
Yeah, Sundays you can go and do question and answer, and then the bookstore they said is open 7 days a week. One thing, there was a couple of other things I did want to touch on. I promise, and then I'm almost done. The social organization. There were 2 levels of membership in the AAC. The majority of York's disciples were short-term associate members who wore their appropriate garments and symbols, read the scrolls, and participated in the Sunday afternoon question and answer class and discussions, like I was told. The more committed members would eventually move into the local commune housed above or next door, which is what I was told. They still own and live there. The bookstore, or to work as peddlers and propagators on the streets. But the great majority of these Muslim Hebrews or Moors would defect during the group's next convulsion as it morphed into a new spiritual phase. But the core was more loyal and intimate groups of disciples. They were York's ministers or teachers, his propagators or missionaries, his muhajid, bodyguards or security force, and his wives or concubines.
A lot of those.
York's rapidly mutating movement was held together by an internal secret Masonic order. Male disciples belonged to the Order of Melchizedek and females to the Eastern Star. Based on highly disciplined hierarchical structures found in Freemasonry, these secret orders were a stable force of authority amidst the transitory phases of York's more, group of all his groups. So, I mean, going by things that have been supposedly wherever this stuff came from, books published and people that have actually investigated this shit, that is what they're saying. With the people of the inner order and running this stuff, they were all Masons.
That's interesting, yeah.
If that's correct.
Yeah.
Prince Hall Freemasonry? Is that what it's called?
It might even be probably Prince Hall, yeah, I would think.
I would assume, but
and this is like even a thing that I guess like which was good about the last thumbnail. I don't have the picture of it anymore to pull up real quick, but like, and if you were to look up Dwight York and you see him wearing that hat, it is the same goddamn thing as a Shriner hat.
Yeah, it looks identical for sure. Yeah.
I mean, right there, it's like, yo, you're like the Shriners already have some Islamic, in my opinion, influence with art.
Oh yeah.
So like, the hat, and then they just threw basically a hexagram on a Shriner hat. So I mean, this is to me.
Their version, maybe.
That's Masonic symbolism right there with that hat that dude's got people wearing. I'm sorry.
Does the Prince Hall have their version of Shriners? Is that like because I know you can't be white and join Prince Hall, right?
Yeah.
No, you can't be.
So I don't know, but I don't know if you can be a Prince Hall and join the regular Shriners, or do they have their own Shriners? See what I'm saying? That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that after that.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. I didn't realize that they were so open. I guess with their kind of the Masonic influence of their situation, especially the upper.
Oh, I think from looking at their stuff, to me, it's all Masonic kind of.
Yeah,
even a little bit Golden Dawnish, maybe. I don't know. Their literature also, some of their Hansol literature also advocates polygamy, but only for the top leaders. As York, aka Imam Isa, explains in Hadrat Fatima Part 2, which was released in 1988. This is on page 23 and 24. Ideally, a man should have 4 wives: the domestic wife, the companion wife, the educated wife, and the cultured wife. And then he goes into which each one of those should be specializing in and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to include all that just for time. But
instruction manual.
I mean, he had that, and then this I find interesting. It just in many different ways. Like even this I found is where I could possibly see maybe if somehow that excuse of people making up stories, the fact that these kids were pulled away from their parents all day, I also do think you could also be coached and told what the fuck to say. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And a lot of the reasons why this guy did get popped is because of the detailed specifics of what was in his bedroom from the kids.
Oh yeah.
So like I'm still I'm not.
It was
I still
one whistleblower too, right? Like
I still think either way it's
for a
screwed
long
up.
time, and someone finally leaked it, like one person, right? Like that's kind of how it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
so it's kind of wild how long it went on for.
Yeah, but the children played a central role in the AAC for the salvation of the community, depended upon them. There was over like 100 children living in the AAC. The Ansar children were separated from their parents and attended the Ansar homeschool and slept in the children's quarters of the commune. So like you're even taking the kids like away.
Again, that's another Scientology like move, and I wonder if they view their children like within the cult as Scientology views their children. So Scientology, that ain't a kid. That's an old alien in a young person's body, right? So that's why they treat them that way, because it's not. They don't believe in kids. They believe in old aliens stuck in a young person's body. So I wonder if the Nuwaubians have a similar outlook on their children within their cult.
And then I just wanted to top it off with this. I just thought this was amazing. And then I'm done, and then we can move on to if you got anything else, Vance or
this is great
Teresa.
stuff, man. I like reviewing their kind of their philosophies, because it makes you wonder how does this have so much influence? Because individually these aspects seem kind of like Looney Tunes, right? Like the 4 wives, like how do you sell people on that, right? Like this is.
I mean, if you're a dude, maybe it's cool to you,
right? But where are you getting all the wives from?
No, it's a good question. But I think some branches of Islam, it's the same thing.
Oh, is it?
Oh, 5%ers, I think.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. They can also
Islam,
do drugs too.
I mean, don't quote me 100%, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's every sect of Islam, but I believe some of them do preach multiple wives.
Sure.
Yeah. I from the experiences I've had with 5%ers, I've heard that. But I don't know. Like, maybe that's just that dude's beliefs.
That's interesting, because York was associated with the 5%ers there in the 60s, right?
The ones I also knew, like, said like they were allowed to still use drugs and alcohol. So, I mean, again, I don't know how truthful this is.
But yeah, another correlation with the Mormons: Joseph Smith only permitted polygamy amongst the upper echelon of the Mormon leadership, and that's actually what destroyed the city of Nauvoo. Really, was the fact that the polygamy thing got out. He kicked out the number 2 guy in charge of Nauvoo, the mayor of Nauvoo, the number 2 guy in charge of the Mormon church at the time, because that dude got busted, sleeping with some member of the church's wife, someone of the membership's wives. And they're like, wait a second. That's when everyone realized all of the upper echelon of the Mormons were doing polygamy stuff. And that's kind of what that was kind of the tipping point for Nauvoo, Illinois.
Yeah, you're horrible, Thresh. I'm sorry. I just had to put that out there.
I saw that before. I was like, you can pull it Trudeau if you want, Justin Trudeau.
Oh, all right. But that's the last paragraph. I just think this is funny. I know. I'm going to even be honest. Even in my notes, I have it even in bold. York making black people white. York placed a great deal of emphasis on what he called genetic breeding. Predicting an apocalypse in the year 2000, which I guess he was wrong. He urged, listen, maybe they have a way of explaining that.
Depends, I guess.
I mean, listen, if you listen to...
It's your interpretation, Nick. There very well could have been an alien apocalypse in 2001.
I can't believe I can't remember this dude's name. There's somebody who I think even keeps pushing that. I can't remember this dude's name. Somebody I still think even says that happened. But they predicted that there was an apocalypse in the year 2000. He urged Ansar parents to make haste and procreate the 144,000 Nubian children who would rapture their parents as the reign of Shaitan, or the devil,
Come on.
wins. That would whatever would rain on the winds down, something like that. Sorry, I'm screwing it up. He warned his people that because they were subliminally taught that light skin is more attractive, they will tend to choose a light complexion mate and produce children who, in 4 generations, will have straight hair.
It's an odd belief system. It's an odd policy.
The pale man, as York warned them, will try to pick apart our genes and take what is beneficial to him and incorporate it into himself. That is why the pale man is resorting to sperm banks, fertilized eggs, and DNA banks, according to him. So,
sounds like he may have been involved in those activities. You know what I mean? But, that's why I always feel like when they have these farms full of children, it's kind of like what sent the Nexium guy to prison, the children farms. And when they're running all these kids, and these, they sounds like in Georgia they were keeping them on the compound, but in other places they shift them to other compounds, especially within Scientology or Nexium. Same difference. But I really wonder if they're just using these, like, this is just a profit mechanism. They use these kids for whatever they can, extracting DNA or, stem cells or you name it, whatever biological situation they can, profit they can extract out of these kids, because it's just a resource to them. They don't really view these, like, especially children, as humans. Like, it's kind of shocking the way the way these cults operate in that kind of capacity, just like in a sociological perspective internally to the cult.
Well, it's interesting too, because I can kind of sort of see like what he's getting at in a way, because with Planned Parenthood in the U.S., like Black babies are unfortunately like the highest like ethnicity aborted, and they put them in like locations,
Sure.
where it's more accessible. And I believe even in vaccines, like regular vaccines, that cell, the immortal cell line that's been used to develop vaccines, I believe it was from a Black baby.
Oh, wow.
So in a way, I mean, yes, like using genetics in a preferable manner, it's eugenics, of course, but I can kind of see what he's getting at in a way. I mean, maybe not the 4 generations to straight hair, but I don't know about that.
Weird.
Yeah. Well, they're always so hyper focused on being Moors. They keep calling themselves Moors specifically, like as if that's like the highest, best form of Black that you can be, right? Like, why specifically Moors? What's wrong with the rest of Africans?
Wait, was it because I think then he claimed that the Moors were descendants of some alien? There's some sort of theology, like some sort of like stories created there, like a origin.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Which generally, like, Moors are a little bit lighter skinned and have more Caucasian features. It's like, looks like a blend, right?
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be alien related. Whenever it comes to Dwight York and the Nuwaubians, when you can't answer it, it's alien related. Like,
right.
Yeah, he's like Giorgio with that. The guy from Ancient Aliens. It's aliens.
Exactly. Yeah, you're talking about the crazy.
Giorgio,
yeah. It's just aliens. If you can't figure it out with Dwight, I'm sure it's aliens. That's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Was there anything you wanted to touch on before we move on to Teresa's stuff, JJ?
No, I think we've kind of already covered it. Yeah, I just really think the kind of the way this cult operates then and still today, and their modern day veneration for Dwight York. Although I do like the conspiracy theory that his son was involved and his son's really the culprit in all these activities. Although looking at the FBI record, it seems to be Dwight York was heavily engaged in the things he's sitting in prison for, and looking at his philosophy, you can kind of see where it comes from with the polygamy and whatnot, and who knows whether creepy other activities they're up to, because the guy just seemed very much. I mean, it's a shtick, right? It's not like I would not doubt that he's got sincere membership, right? No, heck, 293. Yeah, that's not like one of the, the use of Planned Parenthood.
I think it's from kidney cells or something. Yeah, and they use it in like they use it in processed foods for like natural flavors. So, like Doritos, Gatorade, like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, which is kind of a disturbing thought, right?
It absolutely is a very disturbing thought. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of companies and people are involved in this kind of activities. I wouldn't be surprised if, That's some of the child farming going on with some of these cults is doing stuff like that. Because again, there's a lot of money to be made there, and again, that's what I'm getting at with, I don't doubt that there's some of the membership of the Nuwaubian nation is very sincere in their belief systems. I don't think that's Dwight York's seat in the situation. Like, he's very cynical and purveying all these belief systems on the people. And much like any other cult leader, very, very, sort of rapacious in his attempts to gain more money and through whatever method and he can, right? Between, according to the FBI, running guns, running kids, operating, unlicensed nightclubs on their compound in Georgia. Doesn't having his membership give them all of his welfare checks so that he can buy up properties. These are the activities that he seemed to be engaged in for many years, throughout many iterations and many names of this cult because he obviously ran into a lot of heat. I think the fuzz was after him there in New York, and that's why he had to go to Georgia. They had to shut down the Sullivan County situation.
Well, there was stuff
the Westchester County ops. They had to get out of town.
There was stuff that I had left out, but there was even supposed issues that he had with like other, I guess, people kind of like into the same stuff as him in the area, but we're like, yo, you're out there now. Yeah. And like, we're legit, we're like even calling him like a scam, or like his shit's garbage, basically. So, I mean, he even kind of changed his name and moved around because of reasons like that. That's from what I got out of it, but I wasn't going to get into all the specifics, but I did come across that.
No, I think that's a good point. I think it's a very, kind of have to put that in the context of how this cult made it to Georgia and how it ended and how it still exists today, even throughout some of these things. Because one thing he did do is when the Nation of Islam and the 5%ers and these other groups split, he was always raking in their members that were left in the wake of these disputes within these other branches of this Moorish faith, if you will, the Nation of Islam, the Moorish science folks, etc. So I just think when you're talking about Dwight York, I don't think he had any sincere belief of anything that he's perpetrating on folks. I think it's all just a money scheme, like many cult leaders. And I think I think that's one thing that's not considered with these cults is what are they doing with all these damn kids, like in these kid farms, like I don't think it's just diddling them. I don't think it's just selling them or whatever they want to sell them for, which there's obviously records of those things occurring within the Nuwaubian nation, within the Mormon fundamentalist sects, within, the Scientologists, the NXIVM folks, you name it. Right. Yeah. But what else are they doing? I think, they're not taking their kids to Planned Parenthood from these kind of cults. I don't suspect, and on top of that, they're probably doing a lot of the same activities, right? So Planned Parenthood selling aborted baby parts to make food additives, right? I think these cults could very likely be involved in similar activities because that's where the money is. Like, how are they going to make money as a cult? They're gonna do whatever venture they can get themselves involved in, and they've, Dwight York himself and the Nuwaubians proved that. They had a very diverse portfolio of activities. As far as cults go, they were getting a lot of revenue streams from a lot of different places.
Yeah, it just always sickens me too that he's almost playing upon like Black trauma, like coming off of like a historical version of like slavery and whatnot, and it's like now you're trying to like empower Black people by selling them like a bucket of lies, basically. I mean,
well, yeah, it's
it's very sad to me, honestly. And it's similar with like Mormons, right? Like same sort of like alien story, and it's like you are the chosen people, and
right.
We could say that it's about a lot of belief systems that believe in their chosen people, right? So.
No, that's a good point you make, and it kind of makes me think because Dwight York did a stint in prison there in the mid to late 60s, and it's kind of at the same time, where the intelligence agencies were running these kind of MK Ultra programs to the prison systems. Yeah. So it almost makes you wonder if he's like like a previous version of like the SLA that kind of went rogue almost, Maybe. Like he's Donald DeFreeze, and he was kind of developed and put as the head of the SLA. Another Black nationalist cult of sorts, right? And I'm not exactly certain their belief systems are that comparative, but what I'm saying is that very similar in their style of their organization, and that was kind of created in the prison system. And it's not really well documented. This cult, the Nuwaubians, aren't really well researched and known about. So there very well could be some evidence that the Dwight York's cults had a kind of origin story in the same regard in his prison time there. So he, may have been an intelligence operation in the beginning, and may have went completely rogue, and who knows? I think that's a lot of these kind of cults. I think that's how it goes down.
Could be.
I have even thought that about. I do think that what you're saying, that type of scenario, does happen more often than I think not.
Well, I think that's exactly what the process was. I think it was an intelligence operation. I think it went rogue. And speaking of the process and Dwight York, there is a bit of a crossover there, because Dwight York was kind of he was associated with a prominent process member, George Clinton, the Parliament Funkadelic, there in New York in the 1970s as part of this, because Clinton's involved. He's very much into the whole Afro alien concepts as well. So him and York had a lot in common in New York in the 1970s. So yeah, I think I don't think it's out of the question that York's whole situation is rooted in a similar manner of an intelligence operation that was tough to keep the reins on at times.
Yeah, I would not doubt that. I mean, I think it's a good possibility. Teresa, did you want to, I guess maybe before you pull up your slides, I assume maybe you want to explain how you even came across this, and then I'll play the video. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, sure. We can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I think fairly shortly after we recorded the first episode of this, I happened to be watching my favorite comedian, Mr. Dave Chappelle. He came out, he's the GOAT, as they say. He's my fave. And I was watching his latest Netflix special, which is called The Dreamer. And I think I was very late at night. I might be dozing off or whatever towards the end. And then I woke up at the very end of the credits, and it was his logo, the C with the red, green, and black color bands. And then there was this weird quote overlaid over the image.
Yes.
And the quote says, "This is protected by the red, the black, and the green at the crossroad with a key," in a weird voice. And I was like, what is that? And I just whipped out my phone, and I actually had to rewind it. So I made sure that I was Googling the phrase correctly, because I'm like, that's gotta be something significant. This is not random. And sure enough, it was a lyric from a song by a 90s hip hop group called X-Clan, which sort of spurred this whole rabbit hole. So I don't know if that's
It's a good thing.
a good time to bring up the slides,
No.
or you
Oh,
want
I'm
to
gonna play the
fine.
video.
I mean,
I was actually gonna play the video, too.
Yeah,
What?
and then I was like, this has to be something. And we had
Yeah.
it was in my mind of there's got to be a connection between Chappelle and hip hop and Nuwaubian Nation and X over everything. It's just all swimming in my mind. So yeah, if you want to bring that up, Nick, I think that's good.
He's definitely Nation of Islam, right? Dave Chappelle.
He is Muslim, and I believe when he went to Africa, who knows?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go.
This is protected by the red, the black, and the green at the crossroad with a key.
Wow.
That's what I woke up to. I was like, yo, this is off the hook. I gotta Google this. So yeah, and I just sort of went down this rabbit hole. So I'll bring it up on my end also, so I can read the slides bigger.
Yeah, and just tell me when to move on to the next. I got you.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, this is just pulled from our article actually today. Dave Chappelle's logo is a tribute to X-Clan, so direct correlation. He's apparently had this at the end of his shows. So this article is from 2019, so at least from then onwards, which I never noticed before, right? So the lyric is from a song called Funkin' Lesson, from the album To the East Blackwards. Ha ha ha. Very clever, guys. And yeah, just reiterates the song lyric there about the protected by the red, the black, the green at the crossroad with a key. So if I want to go to the next slide. This is just an article that I found directly tying Chappelle's end of show lyric reference to X-Clan, and the author goes on to explain the mindset, right? So it's yes, this is a black power thing, black nationalist hip hop movement, They explain a little bit about X Clan. And sorry, let me just see here. I believe the author in this article even said that like his roommate was gonna join Ansaru Allah, but then his family talked him out of it, like in the 90s. So I mean, this is like super influential on like young black men. And I was saying to Nick before the show, like it might not be that influential to like me or you guys, you know, because we are from a different like ethnicity, right? But if you're a young man or a young person listening to this, you might really be like intrigued and then kind of, you know, dive down the rabbit hole of what your heroes or your mentors are into, right?
Oh, for sure.
Well, yeah, it really pervades in the culture a lot.
I mean, with prominent people like Chappelle, I mean, yeah, I mean, him, Jay-Z, like I think Jay-Z's mentioned right there, right in the article. Sean Carter, isn't that Jay-Z's real name?
Yeah, Sean Carter, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, these are prominent figures within the black community. I could definitely see why, you know, if they're promoting it, you know, how it gets spread so far. But then the question becomes is why are they promoting it?
Absolutely, right? Yeah, what is the motivation? So in the next slide, I just had album cover from X Clan, so you can kind of get an idea of their imagery. They're fully decked out in like, you know, the Egyptian motifs and whatnot. And then this
like a leather fez, though, right? Is that like
a leather one? Yeah,
that's fancy.
Very fancy indeed.
Skinwalkers.
Yes. Oh, geez. Yeah. So it just shows the lyric is from the song, and then I thought the rest of the lyrics were pretty interesting too. And of course, the guy who does that little lyric that Chappelle used on his logo, his name is Professor X.
Oh, nice.
You know, just more X's in the mix. And then Brother Jay goes into the song when it starts and he goes, abracadabra, Allah, baby. And then they talk about being born in the cosmos with no time and space to exist, vibe in the midst of the cosmos. Mortals label me as illogical, mythological.
Sounds kind of Nuwaubian.
Right, very alien vibes. Yeah, so the next slide, just some more articles that I found tying the group now to Malachi Z specifically. So just read a little snippet of it. So it says, for those of you who don't know X Clan, they were a mainstream Black Power movement focused rap group that had a bunch of hits that charted on Billboard in the early 90s. This interview below is with Jacob York, the son of Malachi Z. York. And when I saw that, like my eyes bugged out. I was like, oh shit. Malachi Z. York founded the Nuwaubian movement, which has other names such as Ansaru Allah Community, Holy Tabernacle Ministries. I don't think we mentioned that one yet. United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, etc., all the other names. The article does state that Malachi Z. York was a pedophile, rapist, cult leader that preached Black Power while abusing his followers. Oh, sorry, this is the article where the guy says his friend was going to join Holy Tabernacle. Yeah, but his family thankfully talked him out of it. The article goes on to state the Nuwaubian movement had numerous rappers backing these teachings, such as Jazzo, Jay-Z, Dougie Fresh, Africa Bambaataa, De La Soul, Prodigy from Mobb Deep, and MF Doom. Anyone that grew up on hip-hop during this era would be familiar with some of Malachi Z. York's ideologies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Africa Bambaataa, that's like, he's like a legendary figure within the hip-hop community, right?
Malachi Z worked with him, remember? I think
he produced him, right?
Yeah,
he was Africa Bambaataa's producer, right?
And Africa Bambaataa is even big in like house music.
I was gonna say he was like the big DJ guy.
That's who I only knew of him from that, and then when I was like, wait, what?
Music. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I had no idea.
Offshoot, right? Zulu Nation, like he did,
something like that, right?
And he's also under a lot of reports of a lot of kid diddling, so it seems pretty prominent amongst these leaders in this community. But yeah, there's a fellow that I used to I'm trying to remember his name right now. I think he did some work on. Familiar with his work. He did some work about Africa Bambaataa having some military intelligence, kind of Laurel Canyon like roots.
Oh wow,
Mark Devlin.
Well, okay, I wouldn't be surprised, like when you were bringing up the idea of like, you know, CIA involvement or whatever, like that hip hop would be used in the same manner as what happened in like Laurel Canyon with the hippie movement.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. This guy kind of picked up where Dave McGowan left off with the Laurel Canyon scene and kind of did that early MTV scene. which included Africa, Bumbata, and
Okay.
actual sons of the CIA, a CIA officer who started all that stuff, the Copeland family.
Okay.
Side tangent, but Africa
Oh,
Bumbata plays into that tale a little bit.
very interesting. I think the next slide is the one with "Behold a Pale Horse," Nick.
Sure. We even we have someone saying that even the Gravediggers' second album, they might be dressed in that outfit.
Oh wow!
And
wow.
Gravediggers, if people don't know, that was the RZA was in that prior to Wu-Tang.
Oh wow!
And
Okay.
you know what?
There you go.
Weird thing too, like didn't he play off as only having one arm? I could be wrong. Like in Gravediggers, I thought I remember someone telling me, like when I first heard about him, somebody I think like just had like a random cassette of theirs. This is how long ago it was, or a CD.
You're right.
You know, and they probably, I think he might have even gotten it from his sister, and I think it's because he thought that Suicide song they had was funny, because it was just like certain ways that they said stuff. He was like, "Yo, you got to hear the way they talk." Like I think it was more of just like whatever. And and the guy was even going on. He's like, "Yeah, I think," and like this one guy, he's only got one arm, I think, in the band. Like I think it was just like, "Yo, who the fuck are all these people?" You know, because it was like a metalhead, like looking at some like weird rap album to him.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I remember, like, I think I remember there was like some sort of like weird thing, supposedly, you know, maybe it was a way to sell the image that I think the RZA might have even been playing off, that he only had like one arm in the band or some weird shit.
Interesting.
Some shtick.
Yeah, and that's really
way to go.
Well, that's weird because like I mean, David Lynch uses his one-armed people all the time to show occult symbolism.
Well, I was going to ask, is there some occult meaning to that? I mean, it seems like
I would think so. That's why I'm bringing it up, because I would question if that's occult symbolism right there.
Isn't there some movie? Oh, I got to think of it later. I can't think of it now. Some movie line where it's like, "I am the one-armed man."
Oh, The Fugitive? The one-armed man that killed the dude's Harrison Ford's wife?
I don't think it was from. It's something funny, I feel, but maybe it was referencing that.
It might have been a lot of one-armed man used, like a lot of one-armed man terms used.
That's a whole show in itself, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So the slide with "Behold a Pale Horse." So in my rabbit hole diving, I just came across the idea here that the conspiracy manual, basically "Behold a Pale Horse" by William Cooper, basically influenced an entire generation of rappers, being the ones who would have been very active in the 90s and the 2000s. So, for example, this article is referencing Prodigy from Mobb Deep, who we just talked about was directly affiliated with Nuwaubian Nation. He has read the book at least 6 times. And he was very proud to acknowledge that fact. Like we were saying about the CIA, so many in the Black community, it was common knowledge that the CIA was bringing dope into ghettos to further enslave the people. And then, of course, William Cooper in the book talks about AIDS wanting to wipe out African population, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the Black community reading this book was sort of feeling like validated, in a lot of their feelings that like there's a conspiracy against us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So Prodigy even has some rap lyrics. "The Illuminati wants my mind, soul, and body. Secret societies trying to keep their eye on me," et cetera, et cetera. Jay-Z, of course, picked up on the whole Illuminati thing with his 1996 album Reasonable Doubt. And yeah, Prodigy did admit that the first place he saw the word Illuminati was in "Behold a Pale Horse."
Wow.
And yeah, and the next slide is just another excerpt from the same article. Rappers who have mentioned Cooper or his book include Wu-Tang Clan, Big Daddy Kane, Busta Rhymes, Tupac Shakur, Talib Kweli, Nas, Rakim. So many I could go on, of course. But one of the groups named in this article who really latched onto, the conspiracy idea was Lost Children of Babylon. And I was like, I've never heard of that. So I wanted to look that up. So I did. And Lost Children of Babylon, you go to the next slide, Nick, with the Lost Children of Babylon logo. Also known as LCOB, are a spiritual alternative hip-hop music group based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which we mentioned was one of the places that Nuwaubian Nation, had like an offshoot specifically. The group was founded by Rasul Allah and the Breath of Judah in the mid-1990s and first appeared in 1996 on the Jedi Mind Tricks Amber Probe. This next slide just shows like a couple of images of what the Lost Children of Babylon's imagery is like. So of course we see them making, sign of Osiris, the X.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They also use the swords like crossed. I don't know if is that called the Shamir. No, I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but
looks very Shriners like that.
Shriners,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
a different way though.
Absolutely, Shriners, and they even have a white dude.
Token white
in
guy.
their group. I don't know if he's white or maybe he's like Persian or something. He could still be Muslim,
could be,
right? So he can vibe with them. He's allowed, right?
Maybe he's Moorish.
Exactly, Moorish. The next slide just had like 3 little excerpts on it. The top right says it's from the Wikipedia entry on the Lost Children of Babylon, and it says for their second album, Lost Children of Babylon changed their name to the Lost Children of Egypt on request from Dr. Malachi Z. York.
Oh, nice.
Jeez.
Wow.
The name change reflects a concept change of the album, which is more focused on Egyptian philosophy and mythology.
That's a good find.
Right? So it's like directly influencing hip hop artists' imagery, influencing what they put out. Like, who is this guy that has this much pull over?
Wait, when did this happen?
This was their second album, which is called The Book of Anubis. I don't know when that came out. I would have to double check, but I would assume.
I'm just wondering if he was in jail or not already.
No, it doesn't look like it because their third album was 2001. Looks like.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
According to that article, I'm looking for a date. Maybe it looks like 1996 was their first one. Jedi Mind Tricks looks like.
Yeah, so it just says that
Right,
their third album, so Book of Anubis was their second album that Malachi Z. York wanted them to talk about Egyptology. Their third album was mainly focused on the attacks of 9/11 on the World Trade Center. So again, tying in like conspiratorial thinking into hip hop, it's very interesting to me. And yeah, tying it into like comedics and the Emerald Tablets, all this kind of thinking is very interesting.
Sure, yeah. There was a musician in the 60s that York was, or 60s and 70s, I think, really was prominent. That York was real tight with, who was named Sun Ra, I think was his musician name he went by. So, I really feel like this is we're spanning 30 years of these activities, right? From the 70s, this is early 2001. So, I mean, yeah, very, very long stretch of time there. These activities are going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then just like a random addition, the last slide, Nick, with the Emerald Tablets cover.
I thought this was weird.
Yeah, I was bugged out. So the other day, I just happened to catch an episode of the Sean Ryan Show, which I never listened to. It's a popular YouTube podcast, I suppose. And his guest was Billy Carson, who's studied Egyptology and all the things, ancient societies and whatnot. Anyways. Then I looked up some of his work. Billy Carson, of course, has authored this book called The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. And then I was like, why is Dr. York's name on the eBay entry? Did he co-author this book? So I was trying to confirm that. Also named as Dr. Judah L., which is a similar kind of person to...
Is that another pseudonym of Dr. York's?
I believe they're all similar thinkers. So my conclusion was, I think that the eBay seller was just trying to get more hits on their stuff and put names that might be associated with this Anunnaki alien sort of information. So when people look up Dr. York, his entries also come up. So
interesting. And
he did have a lot of rare books that were by Dr. York and other Black Power authors and whatnot. So
nice.
It was really interesting. But I just find it so funny with this whole crossroads and the X clan. And X is so much in our faces right now in 2024 with the upcoming eclipse. That is coming up, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And Elon Musk just yesterday announced that X app is going to become the everything app. He just tweeted that yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that had been his goal for a while. He wanted to do that whole Chinese kind of.
The WeChat, I think, is the Chinese version. Yeah. But also, Elon is into alien shit too. I'm pretty sure Elon is a Raelian, if anything. And I wonder if there's A crossover, pun intended.
No, that's an interesting group, the Raelians. They're an ancient alien cargo cult, sex cult, cloning operation. Speaking of the biological situations we were talking about before, they're deeply involved in cloning stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, really interesting. And then a friend of mine also pointed out like this might be tied to the idea of like Planet X and Nibiru, which I have seen in some Black artists like album art and whatnot, especially even in, and I only know because I teach Zumba, so I'm kind of like not that up on reggaeton music and Spanish music, but I've seen it in, especially there's an artist called Ozuna, and he references Nibiru all the time.
Really?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I was like, that's so random.
For sure.
They must love Zachariah Sitchin.
I was going to say, I wonder what the influence is there. You think it's Sitchin?
Dude, Latin, reggaeton, all that is a whole huge rabbit hole in itself.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's big. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's pretty much.
I'm unfamiliar with it. It's interesting. I have to check that out.
Pretty much it for me on the connection. But yeah.
That's wild, though. And then that ended up, then I started looking into stuff, and that's even more stuff. And I'll try to move this along as quickly as possible because I know we're a little pressed for time.
I got time. It's not a problem on my end.
With Jay-Z, I did want to show like a Jay-Z and a L.O.X connection, actually. Jazzo, who is something that I'll have up on screen right here. This is even showing Bushwick Avenue too. This is the video that I'll get to that was filmed over by this place I went to. This is Jazzo, and he was an American rapper and record producer. He was active in the late 1980s and the 1990s. He ended up doing this song called The Originator with Jay-Z, and this was in 1986, I think, around, or it debuted on his 1986 single. So, I mean, this is old, and this is supposedly the first time Jay-Z was, like, ever in a video. Jonathan, his name was also Jonathan Burks. Jazzo's name is Jonathan Burks. He was born in Brooklyn, and he was into the Nuwaubian nation. He was actually a very visible figure. Like, wasn't hiding it, really.
Promoting it on the back of his jacket, it looks like.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that symbol, I know Mine Hack in the chat just said it looks like Star Wars symbol. Actually, to me, when I saw it, only because Toronto is full of multicultural people, that this is often on people's cars who are Sikh. It's called the Kadar, I believe.
Oh, the Kansa Kadar.
That was
And that, to me, is what that symbol looks like. Oh, sorry, the Kanda. The Kanda. My bad. Must have been in my subconscious from somewhere.
Probably. Well, Kadar was their inner sanctum situation.
Yeah, sorry, we talked about that before. My bad.
There's probably some etymology that those two terms come from that are similar.
Possibly, but yeah, it's a Sikh symbol usually. It looks very similar, and it looks like it's the Star Wars rebel symbol.
I see the Star Wars symbol now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I used to think it was Star Wars. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
And with this guy at some point, Jazzo, he had heard the L.O.X, and he thought that they were pretty good, so he produced a demo tape for them, and he handed that to Mary J. Blige, because he knew her, and then that ended up getting to Sean Puffy Combs, and then they ended up Puff Daddy told them actually it was called, and I find this interesting, they were called the Warlocks.
Oh,
and he told them shorten it to the L.O.X and signed them. And then that's how they that's how they first got their
Come on.
Some overt occultism there, obviously.
Wow.
And the reason why I'm assuming that happened is because Styles P was in the Nuwaubian nation. So
interesting.
Yes, that you can find. That's not like, a hard thing to find. I think maybe even Bing AI will even give you the answer for that. If you ask if he was in the Nuwaubian nation. I think Styles.
The Grateful Dead were originally the Warlocks, and they had a lot of ancient Egyptian symbolism in their
Here we go with Jay-Z.
Stuff.
It's young Jay-Z right there.
Ooh.
Hello,
Blue Ivy. Hello. That's funny.
So then the originators filmed that. It was at this place in Brooklyn. One of the things I took care of some of the lyrics, as citing the mic, much to the delight of millions of Nubians and Amorites, just can't understand the groove we're in. And I looked up Amorites, and they were ancient Northwest Semitic-speaking Bronze Age people from the Levant. I don't even know how to say if that's correct. Initially appearing in Sumerian records. And, yeah, so he was talking about
ancient Mesopotamia culture, sounds like.
Yeah.
I think they were the Canaanites.
They expanded and ruled most of Levant, Mesopotamia, and parts of Egypt from 21st century BC to the late 17th century BC.
Interesting.
Yes.
And that's referenced in this song, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Then there was like a little bit of some Jay-Z and Jaz-O drama. It started when Jay-Z launched Rockefeller Records and he tried to sign Jaz-O and fellow rapper Sauce Money, and they both declined. A beef started and Jay-Z went on to diss Jazz first on a track called Fuck Jaz-O, a.k.a. Jaz-Ho.
Not really hiding it, is he?
No. Jaz-O reflected on the rumor that Jay-Z helped him escape a religious cult with DJ Vlad in an interview. He spoke about Jay-Z and the movement, but never spoke about the rumor. He did admit that at one point he and his wife had to move in with Jay-Z in Brooklyn, but never said it was to escape that cult, though. He goes into moving near the spot on Bushwick Avenue and eventually met Dwight and his son from eating pizza at the pizza place. He liked the buckwheat crust they served there. So, like, from this thing that I was reading, to me, it also makes me think of, and I think somebody else even said it on my post on Instagram. I'm assuming this place, I think, actually served food, too.
Oh, really?
At one point back in the day, I think when it was probably more of like the Ansar thing, I think they may have actually had like, you know, like how there was a library there. I don't know if that was like there, but like maybe they had that and like food, a way of like serving food out of what is now the temple that I showed.
Yeah, like a community center.
Yeah. Or if, I mean, we just need like an oven, a pizza oven really for that.
Yeah.
Prodigy. Prodigy was shipped off to Mid-State Correctional Facility in Fort Dix. Interesting, the same place that I went to in New Jersey, for criminal charges of possessing illegal firearms. And there was somebody who like interviewed him and spoke to him. And the guy says, I remember recognizing Prodigy's spiritual growth, seeing the influence of the Brooklyn-based Nuwaubian nation in some of his prison letters when he referenced the organization's founder, Dr. Malachi York. I also saw that his beef hadn't completely stopped with Jay-Z, blah, 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 on the ink-smudged pieces of notepaper. And this Prodigy was kind of claiming that Jay-Z was kind of associated with Malachi Z and his son, Jacob York, fucking over Malachi.
Oh, that's interesting.
This is remember before I wasn't exactly sure. This was the one person that actually thought that Malachi was like set up, and he actually thinks that Jay-Z was involved in that, and that he actually did not he had a problem with Jay-Z. I think in some interviews that Prodigy did, I think he even called him out and called out other people for being involved in the Illuminati, but it says that's all he's going to really say about it, because he knows that if he keeps going into it, his career's done.
That's
he's literally even said that in interviews.
I think that's really interesting, given Jay-Z's associations with Nexium, given Jay-Z's associations with Marina Abramovic. He seems like a kind of an important occult figure.
He thinks that Jay-Z and Jacob, which is Malachi Z's son, orchestrated the setup. Yes.
I wonder how much Jacob's involved with Rockefeller Records. Like I said, he was a producer, so he may be associated with Jay-Z's label. For all I know, I don't know. Sounds like they have some sort of dealings with one another. He looks so young there. That's kind of a funny picture,
right? MF Doom. MF Doom was in MF Doom's Operation Doomsday, has on its back cover a photo of the artist and his late brother and KMD partner Subrock at the upstate New York Nuwaubian facility, supposedly. supposedly, and which I might have. Let me see, right here. Supposedly that is the Nuwaubian Nation, upstate New York, I think, location.
The Sullivan County.
Yeah, and that's the album, back cover. This is Styles P. I just went to go look at some of his stuff real quick, and I did find this interesting. I Get High video. Everybody's got to remember that song. I just I even find this is just it starts off with him laying on a black and white checkered floor. It starts.
Exactly, right?
He's got 22 on the back, blue. And to me, that's just that's he's totally doing it's really to me the Jupiter sigil, which has 2 circles on one side and 2 circles, and it looks like an X in a sense with 2 and 2, and it's blue. The color for Jupiter, and the chesed is blue. To me, I do think he's referencing, some occult shit right here.
That's interesting.
And here's another shot of the place. Here, let me just leave it there, and let me get into what I have here. De La Soul, I think you mentioned that before, one of the guys in there. He was in it. Cameron is also known for being in the Nuwaubian Nation and mentions Dwight York in his lyrics and Leave Me Alone Part 2. He says, I spend days on Kawasaki's nights with Lewinsky's, some shit like that, or Lewinsky's, but I'm like the Iceman, which Michael Kaplinski, who is what he says, is not the Iceman that I'm thinking of, the serial killer. So I don't know what Iceman Michael Kaplinski is.
Is he the mob hitman guy?
No, I think that's somebody. Maybe. And then he says, I style on New York, pile up my fork, dips, consulted by the son of Malachi York.
Interesting.
KMF Doom.
Consulted by the son of Malachi York. Huh?
Yeah. KMD, MF Doom, and DJ Subrock, they were involved in it, and I think they even KMD considered themselves to be members of the Ansar Allah community. I mean, they were open about it. MF Doom pretty much was a little bit open about it. And then one thing that I thought was interesting, and this was another thing that this kid, and I'll try to hurry it up. This kid had told me about this property. Was that he did say that they got it. They've been there for a shit ton of years, 60 or 70 years, but they got it from the Knights of Columbus. Actually did have it prior to them. Now, the weird thing, though, that I found was weird is that, originally it was the Bushwick Democratic Clubhouse.
Sure.
And I'm not going to go so much into that because I already know that we're pressed for time. But, the thing that I find interesting is that if you look into, the way, the Knights of Columbus burnt down. So I even find that very interesting how that place burnt down and then this place popped up.
So the original Knights of Columbus structure at that same address burnt down?
Yes. And I even remember making a joke to the kid. I made a joke to the kid, and I was like, yo, when you guys took it over, was there anything that you kept from the Knights of Columbus? I said, maybe the checkerboard floor or something? Did they have anything that, joking around? And he's like, no, there was nothing to keep. We totally redid the place. Why didn't you tell me it burnt down? Because I found that out myself. It's easy to find that online if you just look. I don't know. I just felt like that was probably one thing. It was just I'm never gonna get into. They do own that. It is called Holy Trinity Seed Ministries now. That is the company that owns that piece of property. And that is the bookstore, 717 Bushwick Avenue. Its estimated value is $831,000 to $211 million. The owner here is up on the side. I'm not going to get into all that. If you want to look at it, it's on the screen.
That seems like it's conservative value for that property. That seems like
that was
worth a lot.
That was the bookstore, actually.
Oh, the bookstore. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that then. Maybe.
That was built in 1930. Yeah.
Still seems a bit conservative. I mean, I know it's not the fanciest neighborhood, but I mean, that's a lot of property there, and any amount of property in Brooklyn or anywhere in New York is pretty valuable, right? I mean, it's square footage wise, we're not talking about cheap real estate.
Yeah, there's a couple of there's two different domestic businesses there, at least on this stuff here. There's been a couple of switchovers of buyers. Somebody with the last name of Lewis. This is 719, and that is Holy Trinity Seed Ministries also. So that's basically
that's
what
the
they're going
building
in.
right there is 719.
Yep.
They're only saying 485K. Oh, interesting.
And now the thing is, I wish I would have known this, but like going by when it was that Democratic building, they used to have bowling events downstairs.
Oh, interesting.
You mean to tell me a place that has a downstairs big enough for that?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that's a power, like that corner has been a power center in the neighborhood for a long time.
Or does nobody know about the basement?
What's that?
Or are they just about the basement?
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe they don't talk. Maybe that's something they don't talk about anymore around those parts. Like, if you go in there on a tour, maybe you should ask them about the basement. See what's going on down there.
Yo, and I could
Like
easily even pull that off. I could be like, yo, well, this used to be the Democratic building back in the day, and I remember they even talked about how they had bowling down there. You guys play bowling here?
Yeah, I brought my sets.
Got my ball. Yo, and then this I thought was weird. There's 96 sex offenders around this place. Registered sex offenders.
Yeah,
is that typical? That many?
No, I mean, I did type in
high.
something else later on just because I did question that. I mean, it probably had about like maybe a quarter or a third.
Oh,
I mean, you have to understand. I mean, you are in a condensed area, but I mean, this was way more than normal.
Yeah, it's densely populated, but that seems high.
Yeah. It used to be a theme.
Yeah, Holy Trinity Seed and Ministry in Brooklyn. It exists. And then there's also it exists. Now, I was trying to look for it in New York because this building's in New York, but it exists in Pennsylvania. Didn't you mention Pennsylvania before?
Yeah, we were looking at that. We couldn't find the New York records the other day. We were looking at the Pennsylvania records. That's where I pulled that EIN they had listed. And I was like, oh, this doesn't seem to be a real EIN.
And then they also own this building right here. And this kid was even telling me that some of the buildings over there, he's like, first off, he was bragging, saying they own the whole block. I don't know. And he was telling me that they re-gentrified the area. That literally came out of his mouth. I was like, wow, you just said you gentrified this area. But he was like bragging about how clean it was. And he's like, you're not going to find any crime around here or any garbage on the floor. I was like, all right. But he was telling me and bragging about how like certain colored buildings over there is that color because they repainted it because they own it now too. But like they own this whole thing over here too, which is like another whole, which I'm wondering if you can see, it's like the next building after. It's pretty much the extension from I think the bookstore. And then this whole thing right here, I'm assuming this is probably what they were talking about prior when they were saying all these people living here.
Yeah.
This is probably the same building. And they're all still there.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that they've been living there for years.
Well, that's probably what the kid was getting at when he was telling me he lives over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he may be from there, maybe where he grew up.
And see, this is what by Mary York.
Mm-hmm.
So is that what kept this stuff, kind of out of the hands of stuff being taken?
Looks like that was a power of attorney of somebody that signed for Mary York. Looks like even, which is always somewhat more questionable when it comes to real estate transactions. When you have power of attorney, folks.
Mind Hack says, sounds like you're good at getting people to talk, Nick. That's awesome. Listen, when I was in the situation, I had to pull into magician mode, and I had to fucking say whatever this dude. Yo, I was even at the point to where I was joking with him, and I was like, yo, please tell me you went live. I was like, at least on like Instagram or Facebook when you ran up on me. Like, I was even joking with the dude about the whole situation just to get him to be more comfortable, to keep fucking talking, please.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was like so happy and so like bragging. I was like, yo, this dude's giving me a lot of shit to look up, and it was very weird because I was like, this kid wasn't lying from the shit he told me.
It seemed like a very fruitful mission you had there in the conversation.
Yeah. And here's just some other things. I'm not going to drag on about this, but I mean, there is like, it has switched. One thing that I thought was interesting, and again, this could just be literally playing games with trying to drop mortgage rates, but I did notice like a lot of times the same owner resold it to themselves, but you'll also notice the bank is different. So I don't know if that's like I'm switching banks to try to change my mortgage or whatever.
Maybe, yeah.
Or is there some games going on? I don't know. So I don't want to automatically say it's nefarious, or something bad, because it really could be somebody just doing exactly what I said, because I've known people to do that. Sure. You'll switch things just to try to get better rates or consolidate things, blah, blah, blah. But you do see the same owner buying it from themselves multiple times. I thought that was a little weird. Yeah, this is showing all the times the deed of trust changed.
Yeah.
And then I did look up that address, and it's 711 Bushwick Avenue. I mean, I guess again, if you think about it, there was a bunch of people living in there. There was a bunch of LLCs attached to that property too.
Holy smokes! Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brush Away LLC, Smile Voice, DIY Financial Upliftment, From Home to Heart. Interesting.
Some of them are New Jersey domestic LLCs, but it's a New York address, so that's kind of confusing.
Here's Georgia. Georgia
Yeah.
domestic. Holy shit, I didn't even realize that. That would be a connection to
go.
Georgia.
Yep. New World Order Battle Rap Series. That sounds like a good one. I'm going to have to check that one
New
out.
World, New World Order. Yo, I did not even notice that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I almost didn't even include this slide because it was just kind of a different way of showing the prior one.
2 different organizers for 2 different LLCs under similar names. That's a classic kind of fraudster move.
And then I remember I mentioned before, they sent missionaries to D.C. Here we go. The Ansar.
Oh, yeah.
Ansaru Allah
There's a guy,
community.
Abdur Rashid Ali. That guy is a prominent figure here. He's very, very, very integrated in their real estate portfolio.
And yeah, I pulled that up, and that is in the District of Columbia. That company is still going on. Supposedly, registered agent is Abdur Rashid Ali. And
if you ever stop by that facility, there's a great chili spot right down, literally like a block.
So you
away.
were telling me you even knew where that area was, right?
Oh, I used to live off of Florida Avenue, just down the road a bit.
So funny.
Ben's Chili spot. It's Ben's Chili. It's a DC kind of staple.
Amazing.
And then there was a couple of other things under this guy's name, somewhere in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Couple of them in Cincinnati, yeah.
Yeah. And then Cincinnati,
One
Ohio.
of them, the one there in Hamilton Avenue, that's kind of like the northwestern suburbs. But the one in the Reading Road address, that's right downtown.
I wonder how close he was to Chappelle. This is
not too far.
This is what I thought was interesting, though, is that one of the addresses that this place uses right here, the registered agent, when he gives his name for this company in Ohio, if you go to that address, it's a tri-state insurance agency. So, I mean.
It was weird, too. The 2 of the addresses have a combination of 7 and 1. Again, I don't know if it's on purpose, but it's weird.
Exactly. Could very well be on purpose. It is odd. I noticed that the other day when Nick and I were discussing this.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, and again, this Abdur Rashid Ali guy, I mean, they got him in charge of everything.
Yeah, I forgot that Chappelle is from Washington. That's right.
Well, he's from Washington, but he lives about an hour from Cincinnati in Yellow Springs, Ohio.
And here is still active, the United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, number 45. That is in Connecticut.
Interesting. Wonder what part of Connecticut that is.
And that is the end of my finds. And I know I've gone on a little bit later than most of you guys could, so sorry about that.
No, it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's great. Some great finds. I enjoyed the conversation. Appreciate the invite from you both there, Nick.
Oh, hell yeah, that was fun as hell.
Some solid information you all came across there.
Yeah,
if I may share one thing that I thought was interesting since our last part, my parting statement here for this conversation was from part 1. Some folks of the interwebs, I apologize, I don't recall who sent it to me on Twitter, or the Twixter, the formerly known as Twitter. And I think Nick saw it, you saw it too, right? It was the Outcast video someone sent us.
Yes.
In regards to part 1. And there's an Outcast, I had never heard of this song, and I'd never seen the video, but Outcast Elevators, it captures kind of this whole Nuwaubian nation situation from Georgia. They're going through the woods, chasing kids. There's the aliens. There's the pyramids. It's the whole bit of it. And again, the Outcast was apparently heavily involved within at least the Georgia component of the Nuwaubian cult here.
Yeah, that was another one too.
That was interesting how they kind of. I mean, this is like I think the video was maybe 1996. I feel like, and they're pretty open about it. In 2004 Grammys, they're pretty open about the Nuwaubian stuff then too. So, and their performance. So, interesting how these people were happy to really promote these things even more publicly than they are today. Before Dwight York was taken down in 2004.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Interesting. Definitely. Yeah, for me, it tied a lot of things together because I mean, I would consider this maybe like the Black Osophy or Black spirituality that I personally am not familiar with. But I came across it a lot, like just getting into more conspiracy stuff, like in the last few years online. Like some people that I would connect with, I'm like, I do not understand like where they're coming from at all. And now it makes so much more sense. A lot of times, like some of the beliefs they would have or questions they would have and things they would share, I'm like, oh, now I understand like where this mentality is coming from and how how pervasive it is in the conspiracy community. It has influenced a lot of things. So,
no, for sure. And when you mentioned the Hold a Pale Horse, I was actually introduced to that book by a member of the Nation of Islam, a friend of mine. So it's interesting how you point out how influential it was there.
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention when I was talking about it that apparently it's like hugely popular in prison and also is one of the most shoplifted books of all time.
Really?
Yeah. And I just thought it was interesting.
No one wants to be on that list to have purchased it.
Like must read, I don't know. But also too, like how much books and bookstores and selling of like literature has been central to like this cult.
Oh yeah,
you know? Like the written word. They're very, very into like actually reading like written word. So yeah.
And it seems that a lot of these outlets they have in the different cities are research libraries or where all their pamphlets that that York allegedly authored, they're all apparently available. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, where does that money go?
Wait, where does all that money go, right? I want to see. That's what I told my Mormon bishop when I was like 14. They're like, you want me to pay some tithing? I'm going to have to see the books here, bud. I want to see where some of this money's getting spent before I start forking over my refereeing money.
Yeah. No, but like even his, like even the books that are out there that he, like if he still has books that are in print and being sold, like who's that money going to?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Scientology. It's funny you mention that because Scientology, L. Ron's books, his sci-fi books, they get sold under a nonprofit label, no different than the rest of Scientology stuff does. So that's interesting you point that out about the proceeds of the books. I want to know where that money goes.
Where do they go exactly? It's a good question.
Well, thank you both. And thank you everybody in the chat as well. I appreciate everybody's comments. That's what's up. That's why I wanted to go live. I really had a great time with both of you. Teresa's show, The Spiritual Gangsters, definitely check it out. That will be in the bottom. JJ's show, his links and everything as usual. Everybody's links, they're all in the bottom. Definitely go check out JJ's stuff. And like I always do like to promote, especially his Smiley Face Killer stuff, please. If you're into that, I highly suggest to check that out. And I do suggest to even check out his, what was that, Substack you got, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I actually find that pretty interesting. I think his Idaho 4 Substack stuff is pretty decent. I was actually kind of surprised. I was like, damn, JJ can write also. Like,
nice.
Well done, man. Well done.
Maybe coming soon on the Occult Rejects Institute, right?
Yes. On the website, when our website finally drops, you will see some of his stuff on the Substack on there, and hopefully some other stuff eventually going forward.
Smiley Face Killer writings. I got some
awesome.
good stuff there too.
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up as well. Definitely keep an eye out for that. Occult Research Institute should be dropping soon. Actually, I think it will be out before this. So if you haven't heard about it,
nice.
If you haven't heard, the live will be up, but if when this drops as an episode, it will already be out. If you haven't heard of it yet, definitely check it out. And that link will be in the bottom as well, obviously, at this point. I'll add it. But thank you again, everybody in the chat. Thank you both for coming on. You killed it. That was really a great episode. I was really looking forward to it. And it even seemed like on social media, a lot of people are looking forward to this episode.
No, for sure. That's awesome.
So, yeah, I was happy to finally get it done, and I knew it was going to be a banger. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.